It's arrival time at about just a little past 8:30, 8:45.
Franco, known as Seecamp, on the Seecamp Forum. And we're here today at Larry Seecamp's facility in Milford, Connecticut. We're having a tech session. We hold the tech sessions with about 12 individuals, and we kind of go through what is necessary to take apart the firearm and reassemble, and all the little intricacies. We'll talk about ammunition and feeding and things of that nature. So, welcome, and I hope you get to learn something from our tech session today. Right. Okay. Everyone got theirs back together? Not yet.
Yeah, Dean's holding everybody up again, all right? Yeah. Just ignore me.
Yeah.
You have to put the magazine.
Here.
You have to put the magazine in.
No, that goes, you see the double string.
See the double string?
Right. That goes to the back.
That's what he said. You snap the magazine. So the string is incorrect.
I
made that mistake.
You know, I wonder if everybody has some empty casings here. Here we go.
I got 2 of them. I don't have 100 rounds through this.
I would look at it, it's like brown paper.
Right.
Just because it's not fun, or?
No, this is easy to shoot. I don't know, it's like, I don't know. I just treated it like a jewel. Right.
Because it's obviously made.
It's made to be shot.
Very good.
Right.
You got me on that one. I used to know.
But I shot it one time in my backyard so far until I can get to the range.
hammer strut is-
I'm like making sure my neighbors aren't home. I got woods in the back.
Spring down there.
Boom, you know?
That right there is the hammer strip.
Okay.
That's what happened on
That's the one that was breaking on the 32s.
Yeah, I had a broken hammer strip too.
Okay, you got that?
I want to try to get a 25.
Put just a real that on, and this
It's taking me
holds
a while. I got 2 of them.
that in place.
And I was so frustrated, I probably overpaid. It's like, I just can't think of it. I have this one.
Yeah, that was awfully familiar.
Who else needs
They are
something to
fine.
hold their slide open?
And then the 380, so expensive. I'm actually thinking about the new roof.
I guess I'll need one too. All right.
Here, that's sick.
Are they in the right place for Dean?
Yeah. Double on the face of the back.
That one goes towards the frame.
I already got this.
Oh, no,
And then it's just pretty much like any other automatic with the slide.
we need to put the magazine in.
Oh, the magazine is from the back.
You're gonna need to pull it.
I was giving myself enough time this morning.
That's good.
Everything.
Clicked it before it even went off. I go downstairs.
Instead
of being 5 to 7.
A friend of mine got,
Where's Larry? I go right up to my wife. I said, who's
we got one with a safety mask, pull the slide back.
Divide the city into, you know, that's why I said an hour and 20 minutes. Dispatches.
Oh,
You know what his number is? The dispatch number?
It took me,
I
left at 8 o'clock, so yeah, it took me about an hour and 10
okay,
minutes.
so
But it's not, it's just an
And
hour
then
and
function
23 minutes. But I wanted to give myself time.
It's kind of tough not to point the firearm against the cross.
yes.
Just on top, so I know it's that's why one of the important rules today was no live ammunition. Try not to point the firearm right at somebody, it's kind of,
So looking around, okay, we're gonna point. Take my glasses off.
I don't know if this here tool was even allowed in this building.
Why is that from a different
So that was from a different maker.
That up.
And
Actually, just bought it.
What
tool?
Is it getting started is obviously safety reasons, ensure that the firearm is completely unloaded. So with the magazine in, you can pull the slide back. With the magazine out, with the magazine safety, you're not going to be able to pull the slide back. So I keep the magazine in, I point the firearm in safe direction, keep your finger off the trigger at all times. Open up the slide, give a visual check. And that's about all you can do. The slide's not going to stay open. You can't stick your pinky in there to check. The next thing I would do is I pull the magazine out and ensure that's unloaded as well. And you can pull the slide back just a little bit. So that's a good procedure to get into, is you have to pull the slide back eventually. But with a loaded magazine, you can inadvertently allow a round to enter into the chamber. So go back and check and make sure that the chamber is completely unloaded. And also with the Seecamp, you can see the little notch cut on the top. It gives you another little visual indication that the chamber is on load. I placed the firearm down on a nice pad. Thanks to Mills, he gave us these great pads to work on. Once again, we need the magazine to pull the slide back, so insert your magazine. And sometimes you don't have to put it in all the way. You can feel that if you just, almost before you clip the magazine in and the magazine catch takes hold of the magazine, you can still pull the slide back. At the same time, be careful never to pull the trigger when you have the magazine in at this point, and we don't want to inadvertently pull the trigger, keep your finger on the trigger, and if you pull the magazine out, the trigger bar spring, we'll get into that a little bit later, would bend in, and you could, when reinserting the magazine, knock that spring off with the magazine. The magazine makes up that part of the side plate of the firearm. So that spring rests on the magazine. And in time you'll see a little bit of wear mark on the magazine, and it'll show where the spring actually made contact. So with the magazine partially down or all the way in, it's your choice. You want to pull the slide back far enough, and the best thing to do is we wrap your, like you're having a regular grip, finger alongside the slide. You're going to push with your strong hand and push with your weak hand, so toward each other, and you're going to slide it back. And if you can hold that slide open a little, you're going to take your dummy round or an empty casing and use the caliber that you're working on. And that should line up the takedown hole perfectly. I put the firearm back down on the ground, on the mat, using a 3/30 seconds punch, something close to that. And just right inside that takedown hole, all you want to do is just give it a nice little push down. And as I say, the angels don't sing, you don't hear a lot of music, it's not a big fanfare, the parts aren't going to go flying all over the place. It should be enough to have popped it free and off. And sometimes on the newer firearms, like Tom at the end there, his hasn't been taken apart, this one hasn't been taken apart a lot. It might take a couple of pulls, a couple of pushes on it.
That just slides forward.
Yep, I'm having sheer difficulty with it.
Mine's pretty new.
Yeah, when they're new,
Finally got to pull, push down, and then just go up a little bit. That's what I find.
Can we get another recoil spring? Good thing Tom had
You can bring it down.
Yeah, there you go.
I guess you can use this.
anyone have any problems with theirs? Tom, yours came off all right? The other Tom? Tom. Yeah, when they're new.
The airplane movie, wasn't it?
All right, if you take the next look at the firearm, you'll see the recoil spring, and you notice that it's a spring within a spring. One of the springs only goes inside the other about 3/4 of the length. All right, so the note here, and we'll talk about it again during reassembly, the double part of the spring is going to go back into the frame first. That's pretty much the big thing to remember with the spring. Next thing, again, you can, dealer's choice, you want to leave the magazine in, that's fine. Again, try not to pull that trigger at any time because the next part of the spring. Grab a screwdriver and undo that grip. Take the grip completely off, put it aside. I like to take the screw off of the grip. Take your time. And usually same thing, you don't have to, there's not going to be any angels singing or any music coming up in the sky when it's unscrewed. So Doug, you probably got enough, and just pull the whole
Pull the whole thing off.
grip right off.
You're right. You're
Yeah.
right. Absolutely right, buddy.
How's that Brightman watch to you?
Good, I just,
Everyone have that grip off?
I wanted to bring mine up to the range. Mine's like, oh, no. It's only handguns, they're only handguns. And so of course Nick brings his. Give me full auto.
All right, next, you're going to take the bar off, kind of almost fell off by itself. Put that aside. Now you'll see that trigger bar spring and the connector that I was talking about, the trigger bar spring. Now you can probably see how the magazine makes up that part of the firearm. And when you pull the trigger, that spring would inadvertently push in toward the inside magazine well, and it stops because of that magazine.
And then when you push the magazine back in, it's in the well, and
That's right.
screws it
So
up.
that's a big problem that came about a few years ago. And and this is why people did it. They tried it and they would break the spring or come dislodged or unconnected, and then they thought they had a serious problem. And that's why Larry started packing extra springs in with the kit. Not because they broke by weakness or any other reason, but because he called it the wet paint theory. Once he explained that happened, everybody had to try it. So inadvertently breaking the springs. So that's kind of like, and that's the kind of action that you would see. The spring getting caught by the magazine.
Are those newer springs thicker than the older ones? That one looks thicker than the one I got. This is an older gun.
Well, this is a 380,
Oh,
so
okay.
it's very possible that the spring is a little bit beefier. And I don't know off the top of my head what parts are
Yep.
integratable. And I wanted to get a list of that, but all right. Then I usually take the other side, the other grip off. You can pull the magazine out of this side, put that at the side. And the whole next assembly kind of comes out. It's kind of harder to try and take it out one piece at a time. If you just pick up on the spring, a lot of stuff comes out with it. The spring, the connecting bar, the magazine safety. You'll see that behind the trigger, and you can lift the trigger out. And Eddie has I think it actually has a 380 with the California trigger, the safety on, I should say. There's no California edition 380 at this point.
Take the trigger out too.
You take the trigger out, yeah. Everyone should have pretty much a bare frame. Does anyone have any problem with that, Tom? Doing all right at the end?
Yeah.
If you need any assistance, let me know. I'll come down and give you a hand with anybody. Eddie? Fine. Tom? Bob?
Good.
All right, so you kind of got a bare frame. All right.
Less bear?
If you want to be brave, we can take the hammer out and the sear. I think we'll do that today because it'll be a good thing to see on film. We've had a few of the breakages reported on the Seecamp forum. So we'll take the hammer out. We'll take the magazine catch out. This is going to be tricky. There's a spring in there. So place it. Yeah, I put it down toward the table as you're removing because you don't want to lose that spring. This is a good place to lose it, though. All right. What I usually do is all the pins going from the left come out to the right. So starting at the bottom, right at the magazine catch, put your punch right on that pin and drive that pin out. And be careful with that magazine catch. I usually catch it with my thumb, and the spring should come out. All right?
From the left side, pushing out to the right side.
Yes.
Wow.
And when you're done with that, move on up to the hammer pin and press that pin out. And then the hammer will slide right out through the magazine well and out of the pistol. Now what's unique here is you don't have to worry about the pins too much, but the hammer pin is a little bit larger in diameter than the magazine catch pin. So you're going to end up with something, the magazine catch, the hammer, the hammer strut.
Art, I can't get this,
Let me see.
yeah, we're all kind of,
Oh, there, you can go up.
what am I doing wrong here?
Is it necessary? Probably not, because truthfully, the firearm is really easy to clean. It doesn't. There's such a small little amount of barrel that I can get any kind of cleaning tool in along next to the hammer, and it still does a good enough job.
Why do you have to clean from the inside out?
Well, normally
Accuracy thing.
it's what was the answer?
Accuracy, the
Yeah.
crown of the barrel.
The crown of the barrel. You want to save the integrity of the crown of the
That's
barrel.
the last part that has a bolt before it leaves the muzzle.
It's a critical part to put that twist on that bolt.
So if you break that, it starts to wobble just as it leaves, and
Yeah, it's a basic fundamental cleaning function. All right, does anybody need any hand with that, or is everyone pretty much right where I am? I see Mel.
Trying to get a little song out of it.
Oh, all right. All right, so nobody lost any springs or anything? Next thing we do is if you have your cleaning stuff, you're gonna get your brush out. Oops, excuse me. And any questions so far? Going all right? Yeah, got some patches. Patches and any good cleaning solutions, Shooter's Choice, Hops number 9. And I dampen it, and I go ahead and I clean all the loose parts that I have. I kind of take care of that first.
But a firing pit's pretty easy to get
Well,
Pretty simple.
did you take the firing pin out?
No, you just pull that little ring out, that's it.
It doesn't come out that way, and I'm not sure. That's one of the things that, there's a couple of things here that Larry doesn't recommend in the field, and that's the removal of the firing pin or the extractor. It would require being brought back to the factory to reinstall. So we kind of leave the firing pin and the extractor alone.
Since you're here, it's time to do it.
Yeah, here's the place to break anything, that's for sure.
Okay, it's nice.
Just go through, clean each part, and if you can, kind of put a name with the part while you're doing it, for good practice.
Tom's already used, though. We can't use the name Tom.
Yeah.
can't call this one Bob.
There's not so many beans around.
There you go. This part of the gun is deep.
Now we just need a solution, unless the firearm is really, really bad. But I think I would tend to use less cleaning solution, but just keep doing it more and more until the cotton swab gets to the point where it's nice and clean. Instead of just really dousing the slide in cleaning solution. So a little bit at a time. All the nooks and crannies, and ensure that there isn't any residue, and in time you'll see it where it starts building up. I'd spend more time to that part of the detail and ensuring that you can get as much of that residue out as possible. And the rifling. Run your swabs through, clean it.
Yeah, we wouldn't want to make the accuracy go off on this one.
No, well, they're quite accurate for the size it is. You can see the rifling in there.
It's got a twist in there?
Yeah,
Oh, is that a twist in there?
yeah, it's got a nice, nice rifling. One of the more important things now to do is also, you can see that ring when you're looking down in the chamber. That's very important to keep clean and
It's not
slightly
enough.
lubricated.
It's not enough, swoosh.
Yeah. So if you can't see that, all right, inside the chamber, it's just if you put a shell casing in, that's what the shell casing ridge is going to hit against that chamber.
Oh, I see.
All that little ring in there before the entry.
Right, that's how the system works. It's a delayed blowback system. When you pull the trigger and ignite the primer ignites the powder, the gases expand, pushing the bullet down through that barrel. At the same time, the shell casing is expanding inside that chamber, and it's being held by that ring. It's a delayed, just a little slight delay until the gas drops after the bullet leaves the muzzle, and then that allows the gas to go rearward, pushing a slide rearward. And that ejects the casing out. And as Larry says, the extractor probably isn't really necessary on this style pistol. The gases would push that empty casing right to the back, and the next bullet coming up is used to help eject the empty casing out of the slide opening. And the extractor is also helpful for unloading a firearm with a wide round in the chamber. So that's what it's pretty much there for. Other than that, it's pretty much not even necessary, but it's there, so we want to protect it and we don't want to take it out. That's the extractor I'm talking about. All right, and then after I get everything all clean, I start drying. And again, a little bit of emphasis on that chamber. You want to make sure that's really clean, scrubbed pretty well. And we're going to go back there a little bit later. We'll put some e-socks in there. We'll wrap it around. It's got to be lubricated. It's pretty important, again, with our pocket pistols. That cartridge might sit in there for weeks on end, if not months on end. And incidentally, if we do unload our pistols and pull that cartridge out, it's probably not a good idea to reuse that cartridge. Put it in a box, save it for when you're at the range and possibly try shooting it at the range. There's a couple of reasons why, but basically you could make that cartridge actually longer, and it also weakens the brass. So there's a couple of reasons why we don't want to use it. Safety is utmost important, so if you do keep a round in chamber, again, when you're not carrying a firearm, you can lock it in your safe. So it'll be locked away. So that's the most important thing, and that's a process I do because I don't want to keep taking that round out of the chamber. But in some cases, it's going to sit in there a while. So it's important to put a little e-socks, a little bit of lubricant inside that casing in case you need to fire that firearm. That ensures that cartridge is going to slide out a little bit easier. Okay, so how's everybody doing so far? Pretty good, everything clean? Tom?
How about you, Tom?
And you're okay there, Bob?
Yep.
Tools are working fine for you?
Yeah.
All right. All right, wipe everything down. A little bit of, are we ready for lubrication? Sure. All right, get out your Miltech or whatever else you'd like to use. I always use the Miltech for lubrication. Here's the thing I also don't approve of is laying on a lot of oil, and when you hold the firearm up, it drips off like off a pepperoni pizza or something. The oil just oozing out. A couple places we really don't want to over lubricate. That's your little takedown right here. A lot of people think that we should put a lot of lubrication there, and what could happen is the actual, when you're firing the firearm, that oil won't allow the slide to seat, and you'll see inside the slide there's a little groove where this part would connect into. And if you over lubricate that, there's a chance that it could have a hydrofoil effect, so it never really seats into that slot as it should properly. And you might not know it that first off. So again, you don't want to over lubricate the firearm. And incidentally, when you purchase a brand new firearm from the factory and you get it in the box, like Tom at the end of the table had, you can just go right to the range and start shooting. It's kind of something that you really normally wouldn't do with another firearm. I've seen Sig Sauers in the blued form come from the factory with spray painted oil on it, encased in oil all over. It's very important to take that oil off, because if you start shooting it right away, what do you think is going to attract all that gunpowder and all the residue into the nooks and crannies? It's almost impossible to get rid of. Probably completely stripping the firearm down, ultrasonic cleaning, that kind of thing. So most of the time, important to clean the firearm brand new when you get it before you fire it. The Seecamp firearm is fired at the factory, test fired, and then cleaned. And when you get it, you can feel free to go out and shoot it. It's going to fire fine. In fact, you probably can put it away again, and still not much is going to happen. But once you start firing it, get into the habit of cleaning the firearm. It's a good thing to do. But again, right from the factory, these firearms, they're kind of bulletproof. You take it right to the range, load it up with your the ammunition, and start firing and feel confident with it. All right, so never over lubricate. Try not to put too much lubrication. That's the one point that we try not to get a lot of excess on. Again, stay away from the fire pin, the holes in the slide, to get any excess oil into there. But I do like to lubricate the slide. I just take a cotton swab, put a little bit of my lubricant on it. Uh-oh, that's way too much. So, and then I just go at all the little surfaces. And believe me, it's just a little bit goes a long way in the lubricating world here. I like to get all the little pins and poles that the trigger pivots on. Any pivotal point, any contact surface that you know of, the hammer strut, magazine safety, the pins. I try and touch a little bit of every part, every surface with the oil. And as you're doing it with a cotton swab, try and burnish it in a little bit. Rub it in, get in there pretty well. And you'll see the cotton swab, anything that you really didn't get with your cleaner, you'll see it starting to get a little bit dirty with some residue that maybe the clean. And now you know how to fix it. Just take the inner spring, twist it away from the outer spring just slightly, and that probably will help that grittiness feeling. And I try and twist it. I put a little lubrication on both springs. Once you've got everything lubricated, is everyone pretty much done? If you need more time, we'll wait. Tom?
Good.
The new guys?
You get it, yeah.
Let's show of hands again of people, this is the first time taking these apart. All right, thank you for that. I know it does feel good.
Every time's a first. So honeymoon's not over.
And don't forget, a little bit of that, a little bit of lubrication into the chamber, and that cleaning that ring is very important. Ensure that ring is nice and clean, and you can feel with your cotton swab right up against that ring. And make sure you swish a little bit of lubricant around that. When you're done with that, if you have a nice clean patch, I like to wipe off all and any excess lubrication. And there shouldn't be a lot oozing off the pistol, as I said. I use very little lubrication. And the reason I use very little is I do give these pocket pistols more attention than I would a range pistol. And because of the fact that it's always submitted to perspiration, pocket lint, dust, everything else. And even though you use a good quality holster, you're still getting a lot of debris in there. So I'm always going to take these pistols out. I'm going to check them at least once a month minimum, and probably take the grips off, take it apart. Again, I won't take the hammer off at that point. There's no need. And I'll run a cotton swab down through the barrel with some cleaner and dry it out, and then run a tight just a little bit of lubrication down through the barrel, and then again make sure that chamber and that ring is nice and clean and lubricated. I'm going to take that cartridge that I took out of the firearm. It's going to be put in a box and fired at a later date. So you can go through a box of ammunition pretty fast if you follow that rule of thumb. All right, you have wait for Tom there. Take your time. Tom. Good. All right. And now, if you've taken a clean swab and wiped off everything, we're ready for reassembly. All right. One of the things I do is I pick up this spring first, and don't do that now because it should be one of the last things that goes in. I pick it up first. I don't know why. I always make sure I give it that twist. I give it another cleaning, put it aside. Okay, first thing we can start with, we'll try and go with the hammer, the strut, magazine catch. And if you recall how you took the hammer and its strut out, and again, if you needed to replace the hammer strut, you would have to drive that pin. You can see the pivot point. Not a whole lot of them have shown to be any real breakage in recent years, but there were some older 32s where the strut had cracked, and since then there's not been any, and I don't think there's been any that broke on a 380. Just the 32s, there were some that were broken. This is something that you can fix by yourself by having the Seecamp factory sent you a new strut if it did break. And all right, so kind of in the same way as it came out. Everyone have the hammer in place? And your nice clean and lubricated pin. We're going to throw that pin right inside. You see the shiny side is going to go right toward where your...
Yeah, good point. Which side?
Yeah.
This goes this way?
Yeah, the shiny polished side will go toward that opening facing right where you are now. And it should capture that hammer.
Right, yeah.
The shiny side you will see on the other side.
Nope, the dark side should be on the other side.
Both of mine are dark.
Oh, the pin is the same size.
Yeah.
You're fine. It's not tapered or anything. It's not a tapered pin.
It feels real loose in there.
Yep, it's going to feel loose. When we put the spring in for the magazine catch, it'll tighten it right up. How you doing there, Eddie? Bob?
Good.
Oh, you're all right there?
I'm
Yeah,
trying
that's-
to make sure which side the pin's.
Yeah, it's not a tapered pin, but generally speaking, you can see that one, when you take it apart, one side shining. It doesn't matter, in all honesty.
Mine doesn't feel it. They actually go to one sheet.
Taken out, but
I believe it just rests,
Yeah.
Yep,
just rests in the bottom.
and you'll see,
this pin, oh, okay.
This,
the pin also is used to help stake the grip. Yeah. This whole spring assembly, you can put,
Yep, that goes.
you can put the pin and spring together like this. You can slide it up, yep. And you want to make sure that that hammer strut is seated onto that,
Full magnum.
That, yep, the end of that.
you can see where it kind of sits.
You have the mag release in yet, Art?
I don't. Once you have your spring and the mag released, all right, you got your spring in there?
Yep.
I'd put it down on a flat surface like this. And you're gonna have to hold it as you push the magazine catch up. And you,
Now,
now the ripped part goes forward, correct?
right.
yeah, the hole goes toward you, will.
Yes, the rib part is gonna go toward the trigger, and that's gonna go in, and when you find that spot, we're looking for that little taper here.
Yeah. It's gonna get a little tricky there, I get you. I'm with you.
There you go. And
There it is.
anyone have any problem putting that magazine?
Uh-oh, that didn't sound good. Yeah. Yep, hold on.
So they're almost supposed to come like this.
Get a black horse?
Yeah, so I got it next to mine.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
It's really good.
They have a nice buffet.
Yeah, I was reading online, a lot of people say,
Oh, yeah, they pay for everything.
use all the stuff they gave me.
Yeah.
I think holding the pin is critical at this point. The magazine catch so that it pivots. We don't want to take the hammer and pull it back and let it go at this point, you know.
Like, as you're sitting there, let me just.
On the trigger, so it's pretty straightforward. It's a natural position, and it only goes in one way, as you can see. And drop that right into place. A lot of talk again about triggers having side play, and some have more than others. It's a natural, it's pretty a natural occurrence. There's some that have a little bit more side play than others. Not to be too concerned with that. In fact, it's probably a little bit better. You won't get any bindosis that way. And a little bit more free play.
Yeah,
I believe, yeah, I think there's only one way that
guy goes, right?
Which, the magazine safety, yeah.
Yeah.
Art, you did tell him there's gonna be a test later, right? Oh. You always do that. Oh.
The magazine safety kind of goes in only one way also.
Yeah, we found that out.
And for guys like Tommy, it's kind of tough. You might need some tweezers.
Yeah.
Big fingers, difficult to go in. And let me see if I can show that with these here.
Great, big gloves.
Okay? And it's easy, it only goes in one way. And you'll see that little casting mark, that little line. That kind of lets me know that that's the part you see even when the firearm's fully assembled. You always get to look at that. Kind of just slides right in that post. And you can see the flat part of it magazine's gonna ride right up against that. So it only goes in one way, really. You'll see if you try to put it in another way, it just doesn't fit.
Oh, really?
Makes it very easy to work on this. All right, everybody have the magazine safety in? I'm gonna start with the trigger bar spring and the trigger bar. I'm just gonna turn this the other way. All right, this is gonna ride on the top post of the trigger, and it's gonna wrap around. I think that upside down there, Doug. There you go. That's right, and then that
Goes on this guy?
on the top pivot point. And then that slides right up along underneath. And you might have to pull the.
It's gonna go underneath.
Hold on a second, Doug. Take that off. This here is in back.
I thought it couldn't go in backwards.
We found out it can't go backwards right at that point. You know, it can only go in one way. Now I'm going upside down.
Yeah, it makes it parallel line.
Then that hole on this strut is going to go right on that top piece. This other hook is going to go right up inside there, and you might have to pull the trigger back just a little bit or forward. Working it there because it's going to sit right like that.
Right on that guy there.
I'm gonna show you a little piece on the magazine safety right here. There's a little slot, and that's where the spring, the stress spring, is gonna sit. It's gonna look just like that when you're done. Whoops. So while it's in the firearm. Let me see if I can. All right, you got it? Yep. Make sure that spring
Wraps into that groove.
that spring wraps right into that groove. That's what's going to hold that spring. I'll be over there in a second. Dean, Tom?
Well, mine's not going into the groove, so.
It's not going in the groove.
No.
See that little groove?
Right. I had tried to
That
hold.
part of the spring's going to sit right in there.
I threw that one away.
I'm sorry?
That spring, I threw that away years ago.
You can go away without using the Dean. Brought up to everybody there. Next thing we can do is put the backside grip underneath the firearm. And you'll notice your pins that you use for your hammer strut and the magazine catch. And I like to place the pistol back down firmly on the mat. Okay, the side plate.
Oh, you're making
Oopsie. I had it right the first time here.
Where's the guy that designed this? What that
All right, the next part, yeah, that's what's going to be difficult. That's why I had you put the grip on. Sometimes, like, I think Larry likes to put the slide on first, and then he puts the bar on after. I've been doing it this way, and every time I try to teach people the other way, it's kind of, they have a little bit more of a hard time. Larry, if you watch him, doesn't even put the firearm down, he just holds it, and then right before your eyes, it's all apart in a matter of seconds.
It's like it doesn't line up.
Oh yeah, it's tough to get it. Yeah, nothing. It shouldn't really snap in place, and doesn't really, it's not really going to get held in place. That's why it's important to put the bottom grip on, because your next step would be to put the top grip on and put the screw right through. And that's why I don't like to I like to take the screw out when we first take the grips off, so that you can line the grip up, press it down, it holds that side plate in place, and then drop the screw in. How well these are engineered and how, if you can just look at how much thought went into it. to make sure everything worked so much in unison. Again, you know, any e-socks on any of the parts exposed, e-socks helps in any kind of rust prevention. Everyone, with the exception of Dean, insert the magazine. Well, Dean's done already. Again, you don't have to insert it all the way that it's clicked, but it's fine if you do. Recoil spring, double-ended in toward to the frame first. Finds its little slot. This is another part people have problems with, is putting the slide on. Hold the pistol in your hand. Okay, I'm going to put the slide over the top of the barrel. Push the slide to the rear. Now it's got to drop down on the firearm. That's why you need the magazine in, so that you can press the trigger, slide to the back, drop the slide down. Here, everybody slide dropping in. Okay, push the magazine. Well, leave the magazine where it is, and if you can pull the slide back, just function test it. Point the firearm in a safe direction, and you can try dry firing it. That's going to work. Few of the rules that we like to talk about are, and that's it for the assembly, disassembly. Few of the things is perfectly fine to dry fire the pistols.
Cool.
And one of the big practices is we try not to rub that. That's why I like to keep the magazine dropped down a little bit, so that the slide doesn't rub on top of that follower. All right, so you can still slide it back and forth. That's another problem that people say, I feel grittiness, and they're sliding it back and forth. And you're feeling that slide drag across the top of the followers. And try not to do that. That could prematurely wear that out. And when you're shooting at the range, we talk about loading it up with, if you load the magazines on the 32s and the 380s, hold 6 rounds. You can put 6 rounds out in, load up the chamber, and then just shoot 5 rounds out. Leave that last round in the chamber. Pull the magazine out, put 5 more rounds into the magazine, and then shoot again. And I always like to add to make sure when you put the firearm down in between that, because it's still around in the chamber, make sure that the muzzle is pointed down range. That's the only place you're going to be doing that. But you take the magazine out, ensure that the muzzle is pointed down range, put 5 rounds of ammunition into the magazine. You can even put 6, but try not to run the firearm dry on the last round. So leave that last round in the chamber. Again, that just allows a little bit of longevity on the follower. The slide hitting the follower could prematurely wear it out. So we're try and make that last as long as you can. That's one of the ways. With the 380s, heat is an enemy, so you want to limit at the range 50 rounds or less before cooling. You could probably do 300 rounds at the range, but allow ample time for cooling between each session of 50 rounds. It may take quite a while to cool down, and but that's a big enemy with the 380s is the heat. So keep the sessions down. Anybody want to try taking it apart again and putting it back together? If you want to do it again, feel free. If you have any questions or concerns or comments, you can bring them up. I'll walk around and make sure everything's going okay. Looks like every other tech session we have, everyone helps each other out. And so I see everybody helping the person next to them. The people that have taken them apart before help the people that haven't. It works out pretty well that way. Alrighty, any other questions, concerns, comments? We're going to learn about the magazine and taking apart the magazines, both the 32 and the 380. We'll do a 380 next. Oh yeah, before we start, safety first.
Needs something, glasses for this thing, because in case the springs fly out of the... Okay.
Just to take apart the Seecamp pistol. Certain a little takedown hole in the rear. Just give it a little quick.
Do this by 32.
Oh, hold off on the 32s. Just a quick demonstration on 380. So I got that locking plate out of the way by just pushing in, and you can hear it move out of the way. Sometimes on the corner of the table, on the edge, just to get it started, you might have to get that floor plate started. Pull the floor plate off. Be very careful about the spring. A lot of pressure. They do go flying. So cover that bottom of the floor plate with your finger. Take the floor plate off. There's the locking plate. And the spring comes out. Spring. Yep, and then the follower. Sometimes if you maybe have the manual next to you, pay attention to the way that spring comes out and where it goes back together. It's kind of, it's almost going to be the opposite of the way you think the spring should go. So that's the regular placement of the spring. This high end is going to go to the rear of the follower when you put it back together. So you examine your magazine, ensure that it's not filthy or have any lint in it, clean it, maybe even slightly lubricate it with some E-Sox, wipe it dry like I like to do. To reassemble, you're going to put the follower, I line it up just the way it came out, install the spring, slide the spring up. This is where you have to be careful with the spring tension. Now this is a little different. They have the locking plate, has to go in place. And you can follow the contour of the magazine. All right, hold it in place. Very bad to be pointing it toward everybody here. Start the floor plate on, and then slide on. You hear it click, and it's pretty locked in place. Take your punch or a dowel in the center of the follower, press down, just for function test, and you should be pretty good. And you can wipe it down, and then you're finished with that. 32 magazine. If you guys want to grab yours, be careful again. Spring under spring mode. Same kind of thing. Push that on the back. Free that up. Corner of floor. If you have any problem with that, should be okay though. So sometimes they're hard to get off. Everyone got it started?
Yep.
All right. Very careful pulling this floor plate off. Yep. You'll notice the makeup of the 32 springs a little bit different than the 380. Has this little spacer bar in it. This is where a lot of problems arise with the 32 magazine, the spacer bar. Putting it back in. Sometimes it gets stuck behind the follower. You've heard people complain they can only put one round or can't even push the follower down. That's because of the spacer. This spacer here. What's the spacer?
I think it goes along the back there.
Okay, hold up. Larry?
No.
Tom at the end there has a hard time getting his, I think all you have to do is just push the corner down.
Let's go forward. So you gotta push the button in, and then go just forward.
Oh, okay.
But the button's gotta get pushed in.
Okay. Same thing, you want to inspect the magazine, look for any debris in there, kind of clean it out. You might find some pocket lint. I found some residue from the ammunition. Wipe it all down, clean it. And now when you're ready for reassembly, this is the tricky part because of that spacer. You're going to take the magazine, place everything right flat on the table. Don't try and hold it. You're going to put the follower in as it goes. Put in just a slight portion of it into the bottom of the magazine. Don't try and slide it all the way down to its opening. All right, everyone have it just so it's in slightly? Okay, follow up with the spring. Remember the high end goes to the rear of the follower. So keep it on the table. Don't try and lift it up, Tom.
Okay.
Right on the table. Take the spring, slide it right into the magazine. It's going to grab the follower and push the follower up in. That's all you should be now. You should see the follower coming out of the top of the magazine lips. You should, high end of the spring towards the rear of the follower.
This was high end to the rear, push it all the way to the top.
You got that, Doug, Mike?
Yep.
All right.
What you gotta do,
You take your floor plate of the magazine. You're going to slide the magazine spring into the magazine well. Be very careful at this point. It's going to be under spring pressure. Get the spring right up inside the magazine. Hold it in with your finger. Take the floor plate. Start putting it onto the magazine. You'll feel the grooves in the magazine. They're going to interlock with the grooves on the floor plate. Follow these instructions. Okay, do not close the floor plate all the way to the end. Go almost all the way to the end. A little bit farther. Let me see that, Doug. Okay, you're all right. That's good. Yep. Should have just a little opening. You gotta keep everything down on the mat. Take the bar. The bar is gonna go to the back side of the magazine, the flat part. You're gonna just take that bar and put it behind the spring. Might take a little bit of doing. And leave it there for a second. All right, everyone at that point? Gently slide that spacer up into the magazine, very gently, very slow, and you'll feel a little bit of resistance, almost about a 1/4 inch from the bottom of that floor plate.
okay, there you go.
Very slow. When you feel that resistance, stop there. Pick the magazine up, take your punch, or a wooden dowel or stick, you can use anything. Push to the rear of the follower, push that down. Up. Pick up the magazine, rear of the follower, push the rear portion of it down slightly. Just a little bit. Slide with your finger on the bottom, push the spacer up in place.
Repeat that again?
We should lower to the rear slightly. Yeah, you're working on it wrong.
Got it.
Go to spacer and see how it looks. So now you should have the spacer sitting outside the bottom of the floor plate. Looks wrong. It is wrong. So now you're going to slide the floor plate off while keeping pressure on that bar, on the spacer bar, and then push the spacer bar into the magazine and then reattach the floor plate. This is what, again, under pressure, be very careful. When you're done, you function test the magazine, make sure you heard the click of the floor plate. Go up to the center of the follower, press right in the center, bob the follower down. It should go down enough to realize that you can load some ammunition in. And when you bob the follower, make sure you're right dead center so you don't tilt that follower. Anyone have any problems? Your hands.
Time to do it again.